Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Durham, your report reads like a defense of the Trump campaign and an attack on Hillary Clinton because that's exactly what it is. Donald Trump wanted you to investigate the investigators to show the deep state conspiracy, but you never found one. Instead, you gave him and his MAGA Republicans the next best thing, someone else to blame for Donald Trump's problems. That's why you're here today, because the chairman and his colleagues need someone, anyone, to deflect from the mounting evidence of Trump's misconduct. Let me remind you that Donald Trump was federally indicted on 37 counts for mishandling classified information. 37 counts. That's why you're here today, not because of anything that happened in 2016. Ms. Durham, your investigation cost more than $6.5 million, involved the work of dozens of FBI employees and federal prosecutors, some of whom resigned in protest, and took roughly 4 years to complete. Is that correct?
No.
It's not correct.
No, I mean, there were multiple parts of that.
Did it take 4 years to complete?
Correct.
Okay. And with all these resources and all these people you were sent to help you investigate the investigators, you only filed 3 criminal cases. You only brought 2 cases to trial, correct?
Correct.
And you lost all the cases you brought to trial, correct?
Correct.
In fact, 2 juries acquitted your defendants on all charges. And the one conviction that you obtained, the defendant pleaded guilty to a single count and never went to trial, correct?
Correct.
I will note that in that case, the primary investigative steps were all completed by Inspector General Horowitz. Perhaps you were better when it came to your report. From my reading, your report did not make any specific concrete recommendations to improve DOJ or FBI policies or procedures. In fact, your report repeatedly references the recommendations made by Inspector General Horowitz, almost all of which DOJ and FBI have already implemented. Again, your investigation lasted 4 years. 4 years and untold sums of money, and you still obtained only 1 conviction. You did produce a 300-page report, though, and that's given my Republican counterparts plenty of material to spin. Mr. Durham, George Papadopoulos was a foreign policy advisor to the Trump campaign in spring 2016. Isn't that right?
Correct.
And in May 2016, he told an Australian diplomat that the Trump team had received some kind of suggestion from Russia that it could assist this process with the anonymous release of information during the campaign that would be damaging to Secretary Clinton. This is a fact that came out during the Mueller investigation, and your investigation found nothing to dispute this fact, correct?
There's more detail to that in the report.
Did it find anything to dispute this report, to dispute this fact?
No.
Okay. On page 50 of your report, you wrote that on July 28, 2016, FBI headquarters received the Australian information that formed the basis for the opening of Crossfire Hurricane, correct?
Correct.
So this fantasy that some MAGA Republicans have created, where the investigation was started for any reason other than a Trump campaign operative bragging to Australian intelligence assets about Russian dirt that would damage Hillary Clinton, is not true. And when the FBI received that information, according to your report, it had not just the predication to investigate. There is no question, you wrote, that the FBI had an affirmative obligation to closely examine the Australian information. Isn't that right?
The FBI had an obligation to examine.
So that's correct. So the origin of the investigation was not the Steele dossier. It was not Alpha Bank. It was a Trump aide's loose lips about his campaign's advanced view into a hack that had a profound effect on the 2016 election. That information supplied by the Australian government gave the FBI predication to begin an investigation. I'd like to discuss one more false conclusion about your report that's made its way into the MAGA Republican talking points. Some of my colleagues across the aisle have started calling this the, quote, Russia hoax. It's the theory that Russia did not actually interfere in the 2016 presidential election. That is patently false. In 2017, during the Trump administration, the Director of National Intelligence declassified a report on Russian activity in the 2016 election. You're aware of this report, correct?
Correct.
And in this report, the intelligence community found that, quote, Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered an influence campaign in 2016 aimed at the U.S. presidential election. Russia's goals were to undermine public faith in the U.S. democratic process, denigrate Secretary Clinton, and harm her electability and potential presidency. We further assess Putin and the Russian government developed a clear preference for President-elect Trump, close quote. You did not dispute that Trump ordered an influence campaign to influence the 2016 election in your report, did you?
As I said, there was a real
yes or
Russian
no?
threat.
No, okay. Special Counsel Mueller indicted 12 Russian intelligence officers in July 2018, isn't that right?
Correct.
The 12 intelligence officers were indicted for attacking the Clinton campaign. On page 55 of your report, you acknowledge that at a press conference in 2016, Donald Trump on camera said, "Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing." Is that correct?
That's correct.
And 2 years later at the Helsinki
Regular order.
summit, Trump told the press that he believed Russian President Putin over his own intelligence officials when he told them Russia did not interfere during the 2016 election season. I see my time has expired. I yield back.
Gentlemen, the witness can respond if he chooses to.